Greetings to the Church of God and the saints of Christ, to the Bishop, to Grandfather Abraham, to the Evangelist, to the elders, to the deacons, to the trustees, Grandmother Sarah, the sons and daughters of the Prophet. The first question we would like to ask you, Mvangeli, is what was the main purpose, what was the main reason for the Prophet to struggle accepting God's calling?
Well, I think he was overwhelmed with a sense of his unworthiness. He was not a preacher. He had never been trained as a preacher. He was just a passive member of the Methodist Church, Kamasto. I think that is one reason. Number two, he always said it himself, in fact, that he was a sinner and a drunkard. So, and number three, he was not educated. And he was the only one among the brothers who only had a primary education. And his three brothers were educated. So he thought perhaps God should at least speak to his elder brother Charles, Josiah, or Timothy the youngest. So he was definitely overwhelmed by the sense of his unworthiness. That is, I think that those are the reasons.
Okay. How were the commanders chosen?
Which commanders?
Abantu ababedelegethwe uhamba phambili.
Because your question is saying war commanders. There was no war. That's number one. I need to correct that. There was no war at all. That is why that is regarded as a massacre. Because those people never fought against the government. They never. And that cannot be regarded as a war where other people are armed to the teeth. Were armed to the teeth, and Abanye were unarmed. So there were no war commanders. You know, people at Ntabelanga, Amadodala, that is the men, were divided into groups. And those groups of people had somebody who was regarded as a head of that group, and they were called Inkosana Zakwajuda. Not commanders. Inkosana Zakwajuda. Well, as educated people will be able to interpret that into English. Ninabantu. Inkosana Zakwajuda. There were 7 in number. Because there were 7 groups. Yayinguba umkhulusilwana Ngobo. Yayingumdala uBarrington Mgijima. Yayingungcwele Mafuya. Yayingungcwele uSamuel Petros Mgijima. Yayingungcwele uMac Nkopho. Yayingungcwele u-Enis Mgijima. Yayingu-General Nongalo. There were 7. And their title babezinkosana zakwaJuda. So they were given groups, to lead. Because in the first place, you need to understand that the massacre appeared to Mgijima in a vision. We pass over 1976, 1917, Engxingweni. So he was commanded by God as to how to face that situation. So that is why the men were divided into groups, so that when the enemy appeared, they would go and face those groups, because the soldiers were in groups as well. So they had to approach them as they were in groups as well. Yaqonda? Then bathethe ke nabo, because the purpose was to ask them ukuthi bafuna ntoni, not to fight, but what did they want?
What did they want?
So they were not commanders. And let's take it further.
Okay.
Because they were going to approach the enemy, they were bound to have somebody who is at the head, who would say, Kolobile, go and ask those white people. Yeah, so and so go, so and so go. If they were leaderless as in those groups, then the situation ain't manje. So that is why I say they were not commanders. But the purpose was to be able to control the situation, so that they said whoever they said to the white people. Like, for example, let us take Ashland Command. Umdala Barrington took Elder Victor Ndlangisa and Trustee Edward Mbateni to go and ask, the white commanders, what did they want? And there was that interaction, because when they were coming back, they would report to Elder Barrington Mgijima. Okay.
How did the grave at Engxingweni end up there, and who was leading it?
Yeah, there were people who were going up that river, which they call Engxingweni Stephen. They call that to Stephen. The youth, which was led by Inis Mgijima. That is what we call up in Engxingweni Mbokoto Ebomvu. It was led by Inis, the elder son of Prophet Mgijima, and also some other people who are there are elderly people who were led by grandfather Abraham Gopo, because they were on the extreme left. Grandfather Abraham Gopo. If you see Lendaba Gutwangu gentleman, that smaller Nyana Noli there, he was there. He faced the white people from there. And then next to him, it was Imbokoto Ebomvu, led by Ines Mgijima. That is why they ended up there. Because when those who were killed were gathered together, they were told by the white people to gather those at that Nazca grave, at that place, and then the others at where the two mass graves are, next to the road.
Okay. The significance of the red robe the prophet used to wear, when and why?
The significance of he wore that Nazca robe during the Passovers. And I do not know of any other time he would wear that red robe. The significance of that red robe is blood. There is a great destruction that is coming upon this world. Gijima never came to preach peace in the world. He preached peace to the saints of the Most High God, not to the world. Okay? There is great destruction that is coming. Even his first vision is very clear when it comes to that, because he was told that there is a great war coming upon the world. And all those who do not keep the commandments of God will be killed, will be destroyed in that war. That is coming. And in one of his prophecies, Prophet Mgijima said there are two things that are coming. It is the day of the Lord and Rome. And I've prayed to God that the day of the Lord comes first. The day of the Lord is the war. And he said, umchado, the wedding, is between the Kai River and the Kai and the Besho River. Umbashenia, once when you go to Amtata, you cross it ngapha kwencupha enkondlo nebuqethi inkondlo, cross it umbashe inciba iyole. So then he said amahashi azawuma ngemikhala egazini. When he wore that ribbon for the first time in the Passover of 1914, took it across his head, and he said, "Ndingunozaku zaku wokugqibela, ndiza phambi kwegazi, emva kwami yinkosi noMikhayeli."
What is the significance of Ntabelanga, if there is any? Is it still relevant to us? Ntabelanga not as the grave site, but as our spiritual home.
Ntabelanga is our Canaan land. Ntabelanga is our Canaan land. It is very, very significant as our place of refuge. I think I have said this more than once, that the plan of salvation has three components: the land, the plan, the man. Ntabelanga is a place where the children of Israel should dwell and practice God's statutes accordingly. So it is very significant. We will never be able to practice the statutes as long as Ntabelanga remains as it is. We will only be able to do so when we rebuild Ntabelanga into a city, a holy city, where ukolobile noba upi will say, "I'm going back home, my place of refuge." Now let me give you this, that if, for example, we had land, as the children of Israel say, like Ntabelanga, we had a city there, we would have had the Passover. Because all the children of Israel would simply go to their place of refuge and hide from what is happening in the world. You know, we will be definitely not be wearing iskafuf okwenkomo zikofolo. We would be moving freely in our Canaan land, which is Ntabelanga. Okay? You see, in Nanska, there was no problem still, because not everybody was taken to prison. Some other members of the church, abangamadoda, were not present on the 24th by Ntabelanga. And when they heard that amadoda and the prophet were in jail, so they went over to the police station and handed themselves over to the police, and they were also imprisoned. Among those people, kwakukho uMvangeli Masiza. On the day of the massacre, uMvangeli Masiza wayelele egula. And then when ababasindileyo, those who were not injured, were being taken prisoners by the soldiers, wazinyeliswa uMvangeli Masiza. Because he was sick, they feared that he might die etrongweni. So bamzimelisa. Though then when he recovered, he went also to the police. But amapolisa took him to Prophet Mgijima, and they wanted to know if he knows Masiza. And he said to Masiza, Masiza, go home, you're going inkonzo. So Masiza did just that. Even on the day Prophet Mgijima namadoda was sentenced on the 21st of Kislev 1921, and the judge yati, you must never again do what you have done. Never again do it. Umasiza wama pezko main hall. This main hall was not far away from the temple. At that time, inkonzo yayingenela kwindlu kaProfet Mgijima, just below Mahlucha, up a big street. He stood there and he blew the boom, calling the saints to come to church. So inkonzo zaqhuba there until the time kubuya uba umkhuluswana ngoPetrongweni.
Long after the massacre at Ntabelanga, did they resume worship?
No, they continued. It never stopped. I think there were few Sabbath days that were not attended because after the massacre, the men were in jail. UMvangeli Masiza had not recovered yet, and so on and so on. Otherwise, after his recovery, then all the services resumed. 4 services a day and the Sabbath as well.
Okay, thank you. What was after be restricted from Ntabelanga to move to Queenstown? Can you give us briefly on that period? After they were dispersed in Ntabelanga and there were arrests, they were forbidden from convening from Ntabelanga, so they alternatively moved to Queenstown. So can you give us shortly on that period and also include the building of Itembi?
They were forcefully removed in Ntabelanga. There was no question of alternative. They were forcefully removed from Ntabelanga. After the massacre was on Tuesday. The prophet was arrested. And all those babesindile were not wounded, were also kept captives by Ntabelanga. There was a kraal, they were kept in the kraal the whole day and night on Wednesday. And on Thursday, the dead were buried. On Friday, all the prisoners were driven from Ntabelanga to Queenstown. And on this day also, the Friday, Prophet Mgijima, Mark 24, 25. Now on Thursday, the prophet appeared in court. On Thursday, the 26th. On the 27th, they were all taken to Queenstown prison. Ne? I'm still answering the question. Ne? And then what was the question? Come again?
The question was, can you tell us about the period of being forcefully removed from Ntabelanga to Queenstown and include the building of the temple?
The soldiers remained at Ntabelanga after the massacre to avoid any so-called illegal squattering. So they called it Bona, that it was an illegal squattering. So they remained at Ntabelanga. And on the Sabbath day of the 28th, they destroyed the city. They burned down the Nazca, the tent of the Nazi tabernacle of the congregation, and they demolished the buildings. And those people were forcefully removed to Queenstown and dumped at showgrounds. From a showgrounds, they fend for themselves, find accommodation in the location, and others decided to go back to where they came from. Okay.
Ukwakhiwa kwetempile.
It was after he released Prophet Mgijima. He was released on the 19th of Ziv, 1924. And he arrived in Queenstown on the 24th of Ziv, 1924. Wafika, and his arrival, Wafika, it was on the Sabbath day, kuhlika kwa station. And Uba Umkhulu was already released from Nansika, from Edukai. He was already here. Remember that the Passover ka 1924, and then he was already here, and then he waqala kalankonzo lesizayibamba ngomso yenzini. When a prophet arrived, they were having that service phaya kuye Engxingweni apha eKomani, wearing white with a maqhuzu, remembering those who fell on the 24th. So wafika ke Prophet Mgijima. Then they started working again, in trying to correct the wrongs that happened in their absence and all that, in correcting the wrongs that happened during their absence. And in Ngoshepate of the same year, kwaba synod. And thereafter, Ubamlin Israeli made an application for a piece of land to build a school. He made this application to the Queenstown Council, and it was granted, and they said he can choose which area in the location he would like to have that piece of ground. So he chose that one. After revision, of course, ndibonile ubungcwalisa bukaYehova busihla ezulwini ngapha kwendlu kaMxongo. Yeah. So then they started building in 1925. They started to Kwakalandlo up until 1920. In fact, it was not quite finished, because Yokiwa bayisebenzisa from 1920. Uba uyayijonga icornerstone ilindala, ithi 1926 yayikubekwa kwala cornerstone. Ngala mixesha kudala, the olden days, the unveiling of a cornerstone was not done during the dedication of the building to the service of God. It was done separately, while indlu kwakusakhiwa, they would build just all the corners. And when all the corners are up like this, then that cornerstone would be unveiled. It was unveiled on the 26th. Remember, they had to do everything for themselves. They had to make the bricks. They had to get stones for the foundation and all that. So in 1927, November, that is ngopule yavulwa le ndlu. Okay? 1927, ngopule. Not in a synod. It was dedicated to the service of God, ngopule in 1927.
The aftermath. After the death of the prophet, how did the church cope without a leader? Or let me rephrase that question. What was the transition from the death of the prophet to the new generation of leadership?
From the death?
Kamprofite, ulala komprofite, to ezibhishophu zine kuthiwa zabekwa nguba umkhulu Silwana to uba umkhulu Silwana.
It was a transition similar to the one you saw from Ushweni to Pell. just that kind of transition. Because uba womkhulu uSilwana Ngopho, as grandfather Abraham, was the second in command. And as grandfather, he was the only one among all the ministers that were ordained by the prophet who was authorized to hold Passovers and general synod assemblies. Well, the authority, it comes from that blue ribbon. Okay? When Prophet Engxingweni, he saw his end coming. And he said in the Passover of 1928, hambani nigoduke, noxa zenibe nibuye. Hambani nigoduke zenibe nibuye. Noxa nobe nihlanganiswa ndoda yimbi engendini. Irhamncwa lilele endleleni. Ndibe kukhangele ekhohlo, ndibe kukhangele kunene. Ndingayiboni indlela eya eBhaskeni ezayo. Ndinyanzelekile ukuba ndibethane nalo ngebunzi. The synod at this Nazca General Synod Assembly ka 1928, he said, xa ivula isynod, bawomkhulu, into uThixo aza kuyibuza kum, uza kuyibuza nakuwe. Then at the end of that synod, when he was closing the synod, he said, ndicela umthandazo. Andicela umthandazo kwaba ndinganike qhwiba zophanda. So that transition was very smooth to grandfather Abraham uSilwana Ngopho. So he handed over the reins to Ubawomkhulu uSilwana Ngopho. He was already an old man, Ubawomkhulu uSilwana, even older than the prophet himself. Very old when he took over. And then in 1933, a synod, Ubawomkhulu handed over the baton to Bishop Engxingweni. Zazi four, there were four. It was Samuel Petros Engxingweni, it was Charlton Mzimkhulu, it was Paulos Kwazela, it was Nondo Mondiki. Those four bishops. And Ubawomkhulu uSilwana Ngopho said, kwesi sihlalo sam ndishiya uBishop Engxingweni lo maze ningambangisi. And he passed on ngoKislev 1933. Okay? That was the transition le nithetha ngayo ne.
When you read the history, Yengonzo, the brief history, abantu abamhlophe contend that the massacre that happened in the Ntabelanga was around the issue of land. So we would like usnike briefly on what is the position of the church on land, and was the massacre that happened there only about land?
Yes, it was about land. There is no doubt about that. One cannot doubt about that. I think I've already alluded to this, that one of the components of the plan of salvation is land. When they were asked by a delegation that was sent by Isma's regime why they wanted to remain at Ntabelanga, Their reason was that uThixo uvuse umprofite eNtabelanga. Allow us to remain here and worship God from Ntabelanga. All right? So it was regarded by government as illegal squatting. Okay? And also that some of the houses that were built, they were built on a commonage. It has a commonage. It is a land that belongs to the community. Like a grazing land, if you go to Engxingweni, you will find that there is an area which is set aside only for grazing. That is what we call communal land. Okay? Because sonke as black people, we do our things together. Even amasimi ethu, a communal land, because they are together. You have your peace, your peace, your peace. We are not like whites, where they own big pieces of land and they call them farms. Thina sinayo loo nto as black people because of the colonization. So, though they were built on communal land, and then that was regarded as illegal. But that was permitted by the village superintendent, uNansku Nightingale. He permitted that. But now he backtracked when the farmers, like Abos Qabachana and so on, around Ntabelanga approached the magistrate in Queenstown, Welsh, and complained that Lamasrael who gathered at Ntabelanga are a problem because they are going to steal our livestock. Coming out with such nonsense. I mean, those people, there is a plan of salvation that forbids them from stealing. Then they came out with such things. So definitely it was a question of land. And why Amasrael did not want to go is because they knew that they were supposed to have their own Canaan land, where they can worship God according to his statutes. Now, if we had land, you look at the heritage. When you deal with the question yomhlaba, you look at the heritage. It's either be graves or heritage roots that can determine whether you have a claim over that piece of land. Let us check Mgijima's route from Ntabelanga to Queenstown. He would use two routes. He would travel towards Whittlesea. When you cross uyekile, aphume kumaxa. Uyayibona ne? Good. Ngamanye amaxesha he would use the Takastad road. Athi xa efika, yabona, as you drive up, there is there's a slight cave. Then before Ushle, kukho inansika indlela engena esifama pha ethe Bullhook. He would use that one. All that land belongs to the Church of God and Saints of Christ. That is the land you're supposed to claim from the government based on heritage. The very farm where that grave is, it belongs to the Church of God. You should stand up and claim that land and rebuild the holy city. When we were delegated, ukuthi sipreparishele i-unveil kwenziwe the monument eNtabelanga by the then Premier Nosimo Balindle, we approached the Farmers Association and all the community formations at Ntabelanga for land, and they gave us big land. Lamhlaba, the land that you see, it's not the land that was given, the only piece of land that was given to us. Kapezu, when Prophet Mgijima was standing on the day of the massacre, there is a flat Nansika ground there. Yonke landi pha uyibonayo pha next to the grave was not supposed to be there. It was supposed to be above that Nansika, with an access road and steps up that smaller Nyana mountain to those who are young and energetic. And that land stretches to the right, to the left, to Esaskolo kuthiwa iBatanondon. Okay? Now, if you look at that piece of land, you look at Amasimi and Ntabelanga, then all the farms along between the Khai and Uyewgil, right up to the road to Whittlesea, is it not big enough for you, Kolobile, to rebuild the holy city? So the massacre was about land. Remember, it happened after the Herzog bills. The second Herzog bills, apho abantu abamnyama babethathelwa umhlaba wabo. Then Amasarayeli wanted to remain in their own piece of land and worship God. Not that they were not going to be governed by the laws of the country. No, they were. But what is important is to keep the Sabbath holy the way God wants us to keep it. Is to observe a Passover, all the holy convocations, the way we take upon us is observing. But we cannot be able to do that as long as we do not have our own land. Look now, as Napasik. If we had that as our Canaan land, he locked down, children of Israel, travel to your refuge, to your place of refuge, and hide from this pandemic. And I'm telling you, if the situation was like that, this pandemic would have been in South Africa for 1 month. Pay. But today, look what is happening. Eastern Cape is not. Number 3, we wouldn't be having a single case. If Amasraeli behlala ngokwamasraeli, we wouldn't be having a single case.
Ngale Sabata nangale mini ye massacre as part of the closing remarks.
It was the 21st of Zive, 1921, not the 23rd. When Enoch Mgijima, the prophet of God, received a letter from the commissioner of the South African police, Colonel Truter. Pity that now it's not here, otherwise I would give you to read it. But I will leave Queenstown on the 23rd. And on the 24th, I will approach Ntabelanga. One, I'm coming to arrest 3 men. Charles Mgijima, Philip Mhlabane, oh goodness, why do I forget? Hey, it was so cool. But Philip Mhlabane, Nkelenjane, and also Nkelenjane. You know, these are the Nansika, what we call Intlola, Philip Mhlabane and Nkelenjane. Because ngabo abadutjulwa kuqala ngabelungu benoCharlie Tondolo. Then Charlie Tondolo was killed by Umotishek, foreman yakhe uClopas and his sons. So uCharlie Dondolo was killed. Then this man uNkelenjani was injured. Umhlabane wasinda and he was able to run and tell the news in Ntabelanga. So they were to be arrested for failing to appear at court in East London. Apho kwakuxoxwa khona ityala likaClopas. Okwesibini was to remove all the people who are at Ntabelanga illegally. Babuyele, then they were to be taken back to where they came from. Okwesithathu was to demolish all the houses that were built without authority. So that was the mission of the soldiers going to Ntabelanga. It was the largest force ever assembled in the history of the Union of South Africa. It was a force of about 1,000 men. So this Sabbath, year 21st, is this day in Engxingweni, the prophet received that letter from Theo Truta. And he replied to the letter on Sunday, stating his position. And Truta in his response had nothing to add. Okay? That was a Sunday. On a Monday, onke amadoda ahlangana in the tabernacle of congregation and they prayed the whole night. And in that very early morning of that day, they were told that umuntu uzawutsiba phezu kwamathumbu namthanda. Because umprofit had told them that uThixo ndibonisa isipili. Ndakhangela kwibutho likamafuya. Ndafika kuthe waca. Ndakhangela kwibutho likaSlwane. Ndafika kuthe waca. Ndakhangela kwibutho likaSami. Ndafika kuthe waca. Ndakhwaza uGeneral Nonga. Ndathi uhlelile ntoni na? Awuboni noma amadoda aphilile. Emva koko ndazibona ndibhoyile. And it happened just like that. And you know, their response was that your boy was fake. And truly they died and he was handcuffed and taken prison. On that day, the 21st, Prophet Engxingweni delivered the sermon. And they read from Exodus chapter 20, 10 Commandments. And then what emadodeni mamaxele izinto asibonileyo, chronically. They called it chronically, but what you saw when, as a son of the prophet, you're supposed to see visions, to have visions born, to kuxelelwa this is what is going to happen. Umagahla. Sithe sakuhlangana nabayidi ixele lam lagoba. Usitwaye impathe ndizibone ndimphangela umprofiti ungene eYerusalem yakwaJuda. Umlokoti indoda yasecala ndiyibonile indodana yakwaIsrayeli sombe ingcwaba ingaphisi. Just a few. Let me not tell you everything. Uzawundweba. I don't have to. Okay? And then, have I not finished with the remarks? Guys, you need to rise up to the call. I'm afraid you are failing. What you need to do, get to understand and know thoroughly what is the Church of God and saints of Christ. And when it comes to what today we're talking about, ask one question. Why were children of Israel taken out of Egypt? Why God drove out those nations, Lama Girgash, Lama Yebus, Lama Hivi, that were in the Canaan land? Why did God drove those people away? What was the purpose? He wanted his people to have land so that they can practice the statutes according to sublime requirements. Because they would not be able to do it. Because there were demands that were made by their masters. Now, look at our situation. There are people who cannot go to church on the Sabbath day because their masters, they want them at work. Not so.
Yes, sir.
You start there. Why? Emancipation from Egyptian bondage. Why? Then you check now in the present situation. Then you go to America. Here's Prophet William Saunders Crowdy. Here's a man approaching him. Old man, don't you want to buy a farm? No. He moved 5 paces and God said to him, buy it for the saints. And he went back to that man and said, I want to buy it. And that was not bought by Imali Prophet William Saunders Crowdy. The money to buy that farm was raised by Philadelphia, which was the largest congregation of about 2001 members. One tabernacle. So the question of land should not be political. Be spiritual about it. What is happening in South Africa, we have nothing to do with that. When the land expropriation bill is through, and when the land is being expropriated, we need you young people to stand up and say to the government, give us our land. This land belongs to the children of Israel. How are we going to build the city? How are we going to build the city? Why don't you ask me that question? Who killed the Israelites at Ntabelanga? Who killed them? The British government. Because the South African government was a colony of the United Kingdom. Then why don't you approach the United Kingdom legally, if it need be, and say repatriation? Repatriation. You have to compensate the damage you made to those people. And you don't take that money, you give it to individuals. You rebuild the holy city. That is the challenge you face. But I'm afraid the church is divided. The church is divided. But if you take heart from those graves, phaya kukwamambono, kukwamagcaleka, kukwamagagadi, kukwamahlubi, kukwamandebele, and men, they are sleeping together there. Not a single day ever since there was Ngxingweni kwakho umuntu uthi utata mandiyomomba phaya. Those people, when they were killed, they were united. They were above diversity. That is why Prophet Umgijimi sithi umuntu othi mZulu, mXhosa, mSotho yinja leyo. You need to come up and stop this polarization that is taking place today and focus on things that are important, things that are going to build your faith. You know, you do not know why sicheba inhloko nje. It's because of this situation. You will have your beard when you rebuild the holy city. Then there will be no reason for you uba mawuchebe inhloko yakho. Because you will be a free man. But how can into obube nendivu uzazi into obusehlazweni? Ukwizinto ongakwazi uzenzela zona. That is the challenge, guys, you are facing. But I'm afraid. It seems as if to me, you don't understand that you are standing on the shoulders of a giant. If only you can understand that and ask one question, what am I doing about it? When I was a young man, I thought this generation as CEO is the generation that will storm the gates of hell and take the Canaan land. This is what I heard when Sasinogoka and we were moving, Sibona, people coming into the church in numbers. I said, definitely, we are that generation. But today, that hope is fading. Those are my closing remarks. Guys, you have that challenge.
Siyabulela kakhulu Mvangeli.